Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we're going to be continue our discussion on REST API Crud operations. We've already talked about how to add an item to a list, and then we talked about how to read from a list and then render it to a page. And in this video we're going to be talking about how do you update list items. So if you remember before, when we were reading from our list, we didn't have this column here. So I'm going to show you how I did this, how I linked it up, and then I'm going to show you how I did this here and how this works as well. So let me go back to the previous page and then let me bring up the code. So in our previous video, this is how we read from a list, grabbed all the items from a list, and rendered it to a page. So we called our list, our function. Once it retrieved all the data, it passed it to this on query succeeded, and then I mapped through it. And as I was mapping through it, I built my table and all the items in it using the insert row and insert cell methods, and then we added each item into each cell. So that's how we did that. So in order for me to add the edit link, like you see here, this edit link, I had to refactor this piece of code here. So let me show you what I did. So here's the new code here. So once the page is loaded, it does the same thing as previously. So, but don't forget, we need we need to grab all the items from the list like we did previously. It passes that into this onQuery succeeded function. And so I have this if statement, which I didn't have before. I'm just testing to make sure that there are items actually coming in from this Ajax call. And so I have this items. Here. So I am grabbing all of our data and I'm passing it in here. And then I'm building my table. So I build my table here. And then as I'm building I build out the header portion, which is just static, right? Not static, but it's static. And so I am looping through the items within my items array, because what you get back from the result is an array. So I loop through, and as I'm looping through, I am building each row and each of the cells. So this item here, so you see I have this extra thing called an update header. And so I'm building this column here. I have the link. And then I have this items.id. So I am grabbing each row, the X is looping through, and then I'm just grabbing just the ID, because I need the ID to point to exactly the specific item that I need. So I make this edit a link. So when they click on it, it'll take me to this edit form REST API. So once the table is built, it adds it to my HTML. And that's why you see this. So now let me show you what happens when I click on this. So when I click on this, it takes me to another page, and I want you to notice the item ID equal to 36. So that's the item I just clicked on. So once it does that, I go to this page here. Here's the HTML of that form. I have each of the input elements. They all have an ID and also the drop down. And then I have this onClick event. So when you click on this onClick event, it calls this update form function. So in my JavaScript, when that update form fires, it stores it has this get URL vars, and all it's doing is just grabbing the value from the URL, and that's what this function does here. And then once it grabs the item from the URL, puts it into the ID variable. I also grab all of the different values in my form. So document I get element by ID service.value, and I store each one into their respective variables: service, permanent, internet, and region. And then I do the Ajax call, and this is the important part here. This is how you do an update with Ajax. This is how you do an update into a SharePoint list form. So as you notice here, I build out my REST API endpoint. At the end of my items, I have this in parentheses, which is I have an ID within the parentheses. I concatenate the ID. And this is basically just pointing to the ID that I want to update, list item that I want to update. Type is post, and then this is important. You got to make sure you got these headers in here. So accepts, content, type, request digest, merge, if match. And then I have this JSON.stringify, because this is basically an object, so I need to make stringify it. And here I have each of the internal name of my columns that I'm updating, of my fields that I'm updating in my SharePoint list, and then the values that I captured from these lines here. I am updating the values into my SharePoint list. And if it's a success, it says item updated, and if it's a failure, it says alert failed. So let's go and test it out and see what happens. So I'm going to say Navy, I'm going to say 03, and I'm going to say Central. I'm going to click update. It says item updated. So let me refresh this page just to make sure it did update, and it did. Navy 320453, and then Central. Let me do another one. Southern, submit, item updated. Okay, refresh, Southern. So I hope that made sense. Please leave any comments below. Please like it as well, and also share this video. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section. Thank you, and have a good one. Bye.